Hi everyone, Chillax here and welcome back to another Anchor Panic video. So I have a special treat for you guys today. I am going to be doing a live reaction to the character trailers of all 15 unreleased CN operators in chronological order, of which I believe they will come to the global server. We're going to start things off with the top left and work our way from left to right, top to bottom. We will be starting off with Alpine, as you can see before you, and then eventually we will get to Mingye at the end, who is a lightning healer. So without further ado, let's begin.
Konnichiwa, 機長です。もちろん名前で呼んでもいいよ。私の名前はボハロー。読みづらい？よく言われるよ。やっほー。
Oh my god, she's so hot. Okay, so this is going to be the first operator that I will talk about. She's actually been confirmed as the next raid-up hero by Pawn, who is a Discord moderator for the Anchor Panic Discord. And he only mentioned it, or teased it rather, in the creator chat under a code name. It's entirely possible that she will have a different name coming to the global side. Her code name is apparently Crag, like the mountain crag, which I don't really like. I prefer the name Alpine, but it's okay. I'm sure there's like a reason for this. She is a nature breaker whose kit revolves around counterattacking, initially counterattacking whenever she gets hit, but then later on counterattacking on behalf of other allies. And she's very good for PvE in my opinion, because being able to attack multiple times is very good for, reducing the enemy's tenacity gauge. Kwa Sensei also mentions that she has PvP potential, so she may be a hero who you might want to summon for if you decide to build the nature element team in the future.
会いに行くの？こっちはやる気満々だよ。これを食らえ！やーはっ！ふん！これでどうだ！私の仲間に手を出す気？殴られたいの？こんなの簡単。任務のハードルをもっ。
Okay, next we have Adanie.
今の私は騎士であり、レスタンスのエージェントでもあります。しかし、どの立場であれ、私はあなたのために全力を尽くしますよ、リンカ。
Okay, so let me tell you what I know about Adanie. So she is an icebreaker who will be a limited time operator, and she is going to be excellent on an ice elemental team, providing 10% attack bonus to all allies regardless of element, but also increasing ice elemental damage by your ice operators, so that's going to be very good. She also locks onto an enemy target, and whoever she locks onto, if your allies hit that target, they will do 10% increased damage on that target. You can only have one target at a time if you have her Ascension 0, and once that target is defeated, Adanie will need to act again to select a new target. But of course, with Ascensions or her signature sigil, she is able to lock onto a brand new target immediately. Yes. And she is considered a must-pull hero if you care about the Ice Elemental team, although I do think that there's some other excellent Ice operators to consider, including another icebreaker, Gleam, who we'll talk about later.
ご期待に必ず応えてみせましょう。見逃す理由などありません。騎士の誓いを胸に朝の光を振りかざし、闇を切り開いてみせます。あなたが後ろにいれば。
Okay, so now we have Argo, who is a nature stun operator.
ミンカーの最も忠実な部下、シナカです。コードネームはアルゴ。よろしくお願いします。
アルゴ承知です。リンカー様の命令に。
Okay, so let me tell you what I know about Argo. So Argo is a nature stun operator whose kit revolves around her pulling out something from her backpack. She can pull out one of 3 buffs from her backpack that she applies to herself. One is 40% increased block chance, another is 20% increased damage reduction, a third is 30% defense ignore. And unfortunately for her, she cannot apply these buffs onto allies unless you have her Ascension 3 or higher, which I think is ridiculous. It makes me feel like she's going to be very skip worthy for the vast majority of free-to-play players unless they somehow incorporate that into her kit. Because I feel like if she's only buffing herself, that's not great. And then while pulling things out of her backpack, she also inflicts a debuff on the enemy that is different depending on which one of those 3 she pulls, but they all have to do with either reducing the target's energy gain, stripping away their energy, or reducing their speed. And this debuff applies for 2 turns, whereas the buff on herself applies for 1 turn. And I think she's in addition to this, is meant to be a corrosion application battery. Corrosion is a debuff that nature homology operators inflict on the enemies, and this basically weakens the nature elemental resistance of the enemy so that your nature operators can do more damage. So Argo, it seems to me, is going to be ideally in a mono nature team, which is not possible right now, even with Alpine's release, prior to Argo's release. Yeah, so she'll probably be skip worthy.
従い必ずミッションを成功させます。アルゴビーム発射。すごいやつをお見せしますね。無料ですよ。どう？失望させなかったです。
Okay, moving along here, we have Plenilune next, who is an Ice Defender.
ステラナイツ所属。名前は日月です。月の光に導かれ、私は全力を尽くしてあなたを支援いたします。リンカ。
Alright, so as you can see, she has very nice assets, very hot, must pull just by her looks alone, but the great news is that not only is she a 10 out of 10 in terms of looks, but she's a 10 out of 10 in terms of functionality, a must pull for anyone serious about building a mono ice team. And the reason for this is because even though she's not a limited operator, she's like hands down the best defender released to date, because she with her talent, signature sigil, and ascensions and energy burst is able to generate stacks of moon blades, which every time she gets hit by an enemy's skill, she consumes a moon blade to reduce the damage from that skill by 25%, and after 5 moon blades are consumed that way, then she will enter a lunar radiant state, in which basically for the next 2 turns she takes incoming damage on behalf of all allies until her lunar radiance shield has taken a cumulative amount of damage equal to 25% of all moonblade damage. When she got attacked, reduce the damage by moonblades, that's calculated into the shield. So the 5 moonblade damage plus 40% of her max HP, once she absorbs that amount of damage, the final hit will be completely neutralized, kind of like Thunderrock's parry, and Plenilune becomes CC immune. And what else happens? I think that's it. But even though it's a very simple kit, it makes it so that she's a very reliable defender, really protecting your allies.
月夜がやってきました。卑劣なもの。
無限なる月の光よ、我が祈りに応えてください。月の光は
Okay, next we have Cardiac Fire Defender.
これからずっとあなたのそばにいられるってこと？ありがとう。失望はさせないよ。もっともする。
So, in terms of character design, I think she, along with Plenilune, have some of my most favorite character designs. She is supposed to resemble a red koi fish, which I think is really cool. And the thing about Cardiac is that she applies Ember Flame buffs to herself, the weakest ally, as well as the ally with the highest attack. And these Ember Flame buffs provide damage reflection, in which if the enemy hits you, you do reflect damage back on the enemy, as well as one instance of negative status immunity. So she's like a defender who can prevent your allies from being frozen, as an example, while also punishing the enemies for even trying to hit you. And she also applies a Scorch Mark debuff on targets to reduce the target's incoming damage on your allies. And interestingly, with her energy burst, she will pull the enemy who has the highest Scorch Mark to the front of the battle, and she ends up being the only operator to date who's able to change the enemy formation, which I find kind of interesting.
鋭い武器になってみせる。灰になってもらおう。無意味なことを。一瞬の灼熱を恐れるな。その痛みはあんたと共に消えていくんだから。私はリンカーが
Wow, these energy burst animations are so nice. Okay, next we have YunZhuan, who is a limited edition physical defender.
私はそう、古今無双のそうよ。コードネームは運転だ。駅占いもお守り作りも夢占いも、そして料理もすべて私の仕事範囲内だよ。お値段はまあリンカーなら全部無料で。
Okay, so like I mentioned before, she is a limited edition operator, and she was released during Chinese New Year this past year on the CN server. So she's very powerful. Her kit revolves around floating talismans, which, from my understanding, is a barrier that reduces the target's attack by 10%. And whenever she gets hit by a skill, she gets stacks of these barrier wards that convert into these floating talismans. And provides a special shield to all allies called Cloud Veil Barrier, which scales, I believe, off of like some percentage of her max HP. But what's unique about this Cloud Veil Barrier is that it provides a plus 20% block chance to your allies, so that's quite significant. And Kwa Sensei has mentioned before that she's a much improved Thunder Rock who can actually be healed.
私の占いによると、この戦いは必ず勝つわ。心に誠意を持てば、争いを止めるのもただ一年の間に。八方の幻鳴、四季の吉凶、我が御事のりに従って奴らを撃て。これで後進無憂だ。
Okay, so next we have Morpho Lightning Stun Operator. Unfortunately, I could only get the CN trailer and it's slightly censored.
系统调试完毕，能源储备充足，闪蝶，准备就绪。 我已打破重茧。
Okay, so Morpho, she is a lightning stun operator like I mentioned before. Basically, at the start of each action, or after acting, I believe, or maybe at the start of the round, I don't know, she will generate an electro orb that inherits 30% of Morpho's attack, and she can generate up to 3 of these electro orbs. And at the end of each round, all existing electro orbs will discharge to do some damage to neighboring allies within a 3x3 grid, as well as apply a stack of shock. And when you have 3 electro orbs on the battlefield, they evolve into lightning thunder, in which at the end of the turn, I think, when they discharge, like all 3 of them discharge, it will have a chance to inflict paralysis, in which the enemies cannot act, and they also take 10% increased damage. So this is very good for both PvP and PvE. Yeah.
羽化成蝶，这次我会站在你的身边，列位官。早上好，列位官，要尝尝我新做的点心。
It's like they can't make up their mind whether to censor or not censor.
我有跑出机，瘫痪他们的武装。消弭在等离子风暴的微光中吧。破解，吸收，闪蝶与此起舞。列位官。
Alright, next we have Momiji, who is a Fire Striker Limited.
もみじと申します。ボイドハンターの一員として極北の地よりあなた様をお助けに参りました。よろしければ若様と呼ばせていただきます。
Oh my god, she's so hot. So, Momiji is a Fire Striker who was standard on the CN server, got buffed, and became a limited operator on the JP server. And the thing about her is her kit revolves around Foxfire stacks, in which she can generate up to 10 Foxfire stacks, which I believe boosts her fire damage by 12% and provides an 8% defense ignore once she accumulates 10 Foxfire stacks whenever an ally takes action and enters the Foxfire release form. So essentially, allies act, she gets Foxfire stacks when she gets 10. She'll keep the stacks, enter a Foxfire release form, and starts consuming Foxfire stacks with each subsequent action, so that whenever she hits the target, she consumes a Foxfire stack to do 12% additional fire damage and 8% additional defense ignore. And while in this special form, release form, she also applies a grievous wound on the enemy to reduce their healing and shields received. And when she has max insight, because apparently she gets insight as well, she can apply an anti-shield in which the enemy is unable to generate a shield. This has more implications in, say, like you're going against an ice team that has Plenilune's shield being up, or again, say, like an Entropy Cataclysm boss, where whenever the giant Robo Fox Lady generates a shield, she gets an attack bonus as well as a defense bonus. So by providing that anti-shield, the Fox Lady cannot generate that shield in the first place, thus being unable to even get those buffs.
ませんか？わらわに何を切るようおっしゃいますか？彼岸はすでに至りました。諸悪、払い清めましょう。命を食らう呪いを引き金に、この剣は許可となしましょう。
往年も執念も黄泉へと帰ります。万物。
Alright, so moving on to Kovneil, who is a fire stun operator.
之事仅有的渲染，以科弗尼尔之名点亮第一束光。列位官，我已做好准备，将与汝共同维护这人世。来，定下契约吧。科弗尼尔早已经。
Okay, so Kovneil's kit revolves around summoning 4 random spirits, one at a time, and each spirit has a different buff application on the entire party. It could either be 10% increased attack to all allies, increase or elemental resistance reduction on the enemies, probably like fire resistance reduction, crowd control resistance increase on your allies, or damage reduction to your allies. So they're all fairly useful buffs, and when you have all 4 spirits, you double the spirit effects, and Kovneil becomes immune to single target damage. And she has this soul thread link that allows her to apply heart flame marks on her allies, negating crowd control.
后多时，期待汝之教诲。在外人面前，我只是一名普通的学生，但你和他们都不一样。科弗尼尔从不介意告知你他全部的秘密。当心灵魂被烧掉哦！见过魔法的光辉吗？吾将以真名颂唱，为汝等带来命运的终局。我看到了关于世界的秘密，万物的真相。无知契约者，快走！
Okay, next we have Hearkenwind, who is a nature support.
你为我打开了无形的翅膀，我无以答谢。在到达你所在的那片碧空前，我将永不止步。面对官，风送来了硝烟的味道，我已准备就绪。
Okay, so Hearkenwind is a nature support whose kit revolves around Whirlwind Field. Basically, with her talent 1, she summons a special field in which allies get a bonus attack buff of 13%, as well as nature elemental buff of 7.5%. And Hearkenwind herself gets 19% defense ignore. And essentially, she, at the start of each round, I think, gets a cyclone stack. And I think her signature sigil also provides cyclone stacks. And when she gets 4 of them, then she gets something called seasonal wind. She applies it onto a random ally to allow them to, after their current action ends, immediately act again. And this extra action will cleanse that ally, restore their energy, but deal 15% less damage. So this is a way for allies to act twice and even energy burst twice. And for this reason, Hearkenwind is considered a very splashable support. And what's cool also is that when she gives the ally an extra turn, essentially, within that round, she also gets a permanent 9.25% damage reduction buff that can stack up to 5 times and last until the end of battle.
早安，那位官。没想到您的晨练时间也这么早，要不下次我们一起吧？我可以帮您准备红茶和毛巾，训练完还可以一起吃早饭。您意下如何？看得清我的剑影吗？狂风呼啸。 在这缥缈的幻影下，随风而逝吧。如果这样做的话，会不会
？Okay, this next operator is a limited edition quantum breaker, Zephyrine.
获得重生的我，终于能和哥哥一起见识更多美丽的风景了。不过在那之前，就让我来保护哥哥吧。我会和哥哥一起。
Alright, so Zephyrine, she is a very powerful unit who's being run as a hyper carry in a lot of endgame arena PvP comps on the CN server. So at the start of the battle, she will cast a Blessing of the Stars Awakening, and it will be like one of 3 random buffs that she applies to her party. One would be a 12% attack boost to her party, the other is a 10% speed boost to her party, and the third is 40% less damage taken by her party. And at the start of each round, this blessing will change. You cannot have the same blessing twice in a row. And she also, with her talent 2, applies an eternal feather guard. Or rather, she has this state in which when her HP dips below 75%, she will gain a shield that has 30% built-in damage reduction in it. And then she will cast this feather guard again when she negates a fatal blow. So yes, her talent 2 provides a one-time cheat death for that battle. And her energy burst, when she enters it for the first time, or when she casts the energy burst for the first time, she will get a permanent 40% attack boost, 12% speed boost, and 25% damage reduction. She will become CC immune, and all of these buffs last until the end of battle, and her energy burst will evolve. And she will get 100% energy, by the way, so she will cast this evolved energy burst right away after getting these buffs, in which she does AoE quantum damage, and also applies a gold thread lock on a target to prevent them from being shielded. So this also has implications in PvE if you're going against like the giant Robo Lady and Entropy Cataclysm. It might have some PvP applications as well. And do note that when she enters this special state, which I couldn't figure out how, but if she leaves this state, she will grant a golden feather shield to all allies, which I mentioned was the shield that has a built-in 30% damage reduction.
打破命运的轮回。这是我第一次辅助哥哥工作，我一定会努力，不让哥哥失望的。冷静，击退个体，光雨降下惩罚。我会和哥哥一起打破命运的轮回。哥哥如果有什么烦恼的话，都可以跟我说哦。
Okay, this next one is an Ice Breaker Gleam.
列位官，我的长官，我是莱斯坦斯新任战友童光，向您报道。我如约来到了你的身边，为了能够与你一起。
Okay, so Gleam, she is an icebreaker who generates shards, which increases her speed by 6%, as well as her damage reduction by 10%, I believe up to 4 stacks, if I'm not mistaken. And at 4 stacks of shards, she will create a mimic on the enemy side of the field. If you watched my Gleam video, you will know it looks like a spirit. And this spirit inherits the I think 60% of the stats of the frontmost enemy, and kind of serves as a voodoo doll, kind of like a pincushion where that mimic can only take AoE damage, but that AoE damage is amplified and spread across all the enemies, which thus boosts your overall damage output. And then she also mirrors an ally that's in front of her, granting them 25% of Gleam's attack, as well as 40% damage reduction. And during this mirrored state, Gleam will become untargetable by skills and is immune to enemy damage, debuffs, as well as control effects. And her energy burst is kind of like Abyssal's, where she lowers the enemy's ice resistance by 8%, as well as reduces their damage reduction by 15%.
创造新的回忆，我期待这一天很久了。每到一个新的地方，我都会想要拍下周围的景致，尤其是这里，充满有生活气息的地方。想到这儿，我就马上按下了快门。记录、磨刻、印象写入。 结构、重塑、瞬间定格。在刹那千万的光影中，我窥见了真实的自己。我还没见过你认真工作的样子呢，我可以拍下来吗？
Okay, so next we have White Rose, who is a limited quantum stun operator.
高乃利亚，冯霍亨索伦，前来履行对你的承诺了，列位官。迷雾之国的白蔷薇。
Okay, so White Rose. She is a limited time quantum stun operator who fires a bullet after each ally action, going through multiple evolutions of this bullet. So initially the bullet slows down all enemies by 8% speed, then evolved reduces energy gain by the opponent by 40%. Next evolution lowers their quantum resistance. Final evolution creates a clone of herself that is untargetable and shares 60% of White Rose's attack. So when I continue this trailer, what will happen is when you see her battle animations, she will toss this capsule, which is a bullet actually, a silver bullet, and then later on you will see her clone doing it, and it kind of looks like a translucent version of herself.
将只为你一人绽放。遇见你之后，白蔷薇才算从这副救国皇女的躯壳中觉醒。这是我第一次诞生了对某个人的向往，这念头让我极度着迷。我该如何才能靠近你？我该怎样才能拥有你？ 我一劫，灭亡，绽放，在次元的彼岸，给予湮灭吧！你将消逝在历史的尘埃中，不复存在。
Okay, next we have Lyrewood, who is a nature healer.
风雪为我带来了你的故事，两位官。我是贤之，黄金时代最后的吟游诗人。我很期待因你而生的谱曲里 会藏着怎样的风景？就由我。
Okay, so Lyrewood is a nature healer who generates music score, kind of like Echo, but these music notes provide her a 10% damage reduction as well as 10% increased healing. And when you get 4 stacks of music scores, which could be either by her talent 1, her signature sigil, etc., she will enter a forced sonata state in which she is immune to crowd control, and she has a built-in cheat death for herself via her talent 2, in which she, upon getting KO'd, revives and does an AoE burst heal on all allies. And this can only happen once per battle, but this can trigger at A0, which is really nice. And then her AoE skill heals, or her skill AoE heals and dispels 1 debuff from each ally, and her energy burst also AoE heals, dispels debuffs from all allies, and if they didn't have a debuff during that energy burst, she also grants them she grants them instead a plus 10% attack buff for 2 turns.
为各位的旅途演奏一首序曲吧。我喜欢倾听这片大地上发生的故事，将其编成传唱的歌谣。每一个音符，每一个节拍，都是一段传说的回响。倾听吧。完美的节奏。此刻正是纵情演奏之时。累了吗？那就坐下来好好休息，听我为你弹唱一曲吧。你想听重金属？那个。
Okay, and the final trailer is going to be on a limited lightning healer Mingye.
花开万千，汝自凋零。明夜，冒昧拜也。
Okay, so we don't know her kit yet. I will film a video going over her entire kit overview, signature sigils, ascensions, etc., but one clue that we do have right now is this one right here, and I did a rough translation of this. Essentially, this kind of goes over her lore. Mingye is a lightning healer limited who basically she observes all things, and when the time comes, this world blooms into countless possibilities. Then in an instant everything returns to stillness. All beings in this world drift and sink within suffering. When she chants the name of the gods, even fate itself can be loosened. What human could escape such calculations? Yet the gods are never flawless. In the end, even she reached the depths of the unknown, peeling away the buried past. From that moment on, she no longer ascended the immortal path. Follow the flow of destiny, she says softly, taking her hand. Here, your heart may rest. Yeah, so very cool operator.
如有什么用得上我的地方，尽管吩咐便好。祭祀、祈福、求仙告神，桩桩件件，都曾是我的责任和使命。你若是好奇其中的玄妙，不妨随我前来，认真体会一番如何？世间诸事，各有因果勾连，我本无意驻足，但在遇见你之后，心绪忽而有了改变。你此青山一梦，乃作浮尘一鸟。
四时如我敬意，似俺恒久弥新。浮云遥远，去向东隅，可知大梦将晓。见种种皆似幻梦，万事无足。
Okay, so I don't know if you caught that, but it appears that both her skill as well as energy burst heal her allies, so that's a really good thing. I don't know what kind of buffs she will apply on her allies, but I'm hopeful that they are offensive buffs. So that pretty much wraps it up for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, please don't forget to drop a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.